she's brought some really cool things for you when you're working with buyers. So here she is, Veronica Barefield.
Thank y'all so much for allowing me to be here. It's really an honor. When I was asked, oh, thank you so much. Yeah, perfect. Well, let's not show that. Okay, there's a picture back there. But I wanted to share several things with you as far as working with difficult buyers. And I also have a bonus package that I want to give to you guys. I'm no longer in production, and let me kind of explain my background so you can kind of understand where I'm at today. So prior to getting into real estate, I was over 14 years of litigation and corporate law. And as a paralegal, I wasn't the actual attorney, but I pretty much did his work for him. So I negotiated when mergers were happening. I knew before companies were getting ready, one was getting ready to shut down, and we had to sign off on a confidentiality agreement. So it was pretty sad to see companies fold and merge, but it was, and later it came into great handy for me because of the fact that I was negotiating really well when it came to working with buyers. Got into real estate, did really well there, and tapped into first-time home buyers, and then started working with investors, then tapped into the luxury market. Always had joined the team, so I did really well on the team, and one day I walked out of my team meeting, and somebody pulled me aside and said, Veronica, you're on a great team, but do you know you've got 48 buyers and 22 listings? You're carrying the team, just so you'll know. You may want to go out on your own now. It looks like you got it right. So I did. I ended up going on my own and did really well. Then I walked into my team leader's office one day and said, you know what, I want to have an opportunity to own a Keller Williams and run one. And they gave me an opportunity. I moved to Lake Travis and trained with Mary Tennant and Mary Lynn Gibbs, and then came back and had an opportunity to work and run the spring office. So it's been a great journey, let me tell you. So I just wanted to kind of share with you with that. All right. So the one thing for sure is you always want to make sure you and your buyers make a match. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Know their disc profile. And what I mean by that is, you know, a D is a very dominant person. An I is very interactive. They're very sociable, you could tell. They're the life of the party normally. An S is a systems person. They want to see checklists. They want to be able to see that, you know what, she's got it together. She's going to be able to handle this transaction pretty effectively. And the C is a compliance. If you tell them you're going to be there at 2, you need to be there at 1:45 or 1:50 because they are on task. I'll never forget, I lost a deal one time because they said, Veronica, you talk really fast and you move really, really fast, and we think that you're going to miss something. So that's why we no longer want to work with you. That was a big wake-up call for me because I had to mirror and match my client. So if I was talking to this gentleman right here who I know personally, I can be a D and an I all day long because he's very dominant, he's very personal, interactive, and we can have a great time working. Well, with all due respect, if I was working with her, I needed to slow down more like this because I really don't know her well, but I can tell she's very calm, very reserved. I can tell by her body language. I don't know, maybe you're wrong, but this is what I'm grasping for the first 5 minutes. But until I get to know her right now, I need to mirror and match her. So I need to be able to talk more like this. And so when we go look at homes today, I've done your needs analysis, and I know exactly, you're very specific about this and this. Where if I'm talking now, I'm like, I cannot wait to go see nothing but 2-story houses because I know you're adamant about that saltwater pool. So we're going to make sure we find that because I know you're big at having Texas parties in the back. You see the difference. Where I may lose her and she may be like, oh my God, this girl's all over the place. I need to slow down, or she may not want to work with me. The other thing is, I had to make sure I did a really, really good needs analysis as I was talking to you. Because I want to make sure, first of all, that I can actually even meet your needs. So when you're doing a buyer's consultation, which the majority of you should, I want to make sure that you and I are going to make a match working together. I'm going to know immediately in the first 10 minutes, is this gentleman right here going to be difficult, or is he going to be actually really well to work with? Let me tell you a story one time. I'll never forget, I had a client that he was adamant that he wanted a 2-story because his big thing was he wanted a man cave. He wanted to literally have his time. His wife, on the other hand, was very adamant that she wanted a 1-story because she knew that eventually she didn't want to walk up and down the stairs. So I basically found them a 1.5, and it made both of their needs. Upstairs was perfect because that could have been his man cave all day long, but I still met the wife's needs because of the fact that everything she needed was on the first floor. He only needed to go upstairs to take care of him. Why? Because I paid attention to what they needed and did a really, really good needs analysis. Let me tell you why that comes in handy. Because of the fact that it can save you a lot of time and a lot of money, and also too, it's going to make your relationship with this client very, very effective. So when I went to go show homes, I didn't have to show him 12 or 15 homes. I showed him the minimum of 6 because I knew exactly what he wanted, because I found exactly what he needed when I did my search. And I paid attention to his needs analysis. Another thing that also helped me not work with difficult buyers is I wanted to know what their communication skills were like. And what I mean by that is, if he's a texter, that's how I'm going to communicate with him. But if I had to tell him, but by the way, if you didn't respond by text, what's going to be another means to call you if they've accepted our offer and we've got 10 minutes to respond? Make sure you're able to communicate with them that way, because a lot of people don't text. A lot of people don't, they're saying, you know what, just email me. That's the only way I communicate. Okay, well, great. But if just in case I still need to reach you by phone, what is the best number to reach you? I've had clients that are in the military where when they walk into a room, they have to secure their phones. It is literally where they cannot even walk in with their phones. So I'm texting my client all day long trying to tell them, okay, they've accepted their offer under this condition. We need to respond. And I'm texting them, and I don't have a plan B. I need to be able to call his assistant or call his wife and make sure that we can move forward. The other thing is, when I meet with buyers, I always say, well, all decision makers be present when we meet. Because now I'm meeting with him, and then 2 weeks later, now I'm meeting with the wife. And I'm like, now I'm having to do my consultation with them again. The needs analysis seems to be a little differently, but then they're living in the same house. So you see, so again, you want to make sure that they're always present together, which comes really, really handy. When I used to do my buyer consultations, I would also let them know that what my expectations were. Because you know, you want to be careful, clients will run you. Right? So if you, I would always tell them I'm available this time and this time. Little did they know in between that time, whether I was at my daughter's volleyball game, my hair appointment, dentist appointment, they didn't need to know that. Family time, date night was very secure. I did not want to make sure that that never ever got interrupted. You don't ever have to tell them that, hey, well, you know, I could move my hair appointment. That is my hair appointment. Yeah, no, don't do that, because I'm telling you, otherwise they'll run you that way. You want to make sure that you're on schedule, but respectfully. As far as you're concerned, it's an appointment. They don't need to know what kind of appointment it is, but it is an appointment. And let them know, you know what, I work the hours of this and this, and you know what, I'm off on Sundays because it's strictly for family. They have to be able to respect that. Unless, of course, you're working with people from out of town, of course, and then, of course, there's always exceptions. But again, it's all about communicating, which is really, really, really important. The other thing I want to be able to let you know that it's okay to fire somebody. You know, I used to always think that, oh my goodness, respectfully, of course, but you just want to know, you know, this is no longer working. And when I used to, my 15 years in real estate, I've only had to fire about 4 people. But when I did fire that individual, I referred him over to another agent, because we just no longer were working. And I probably didn't do such a great job in regards to making sure that I did a great needs analysis and a disc profile on this individual, just to make sure how I'm going to be able to work with them. And that was earlier in my career. Later in my career, I never had to, because I can immediately tell him, you know what, I have a great agent that will probably work really well with you. Let me go ahead and put you with that individual. And when I did, I got a referral from this agent because of the fact that I just put a client in front of on their lap, literally, and they were able to work better that way. That's really, really important. For you ladies, nowadays I heard us ladies are a little bit more dangerous, but when we go out and show properties, guys, be extremely careful. I'll never forget one time I met a client, pre-qualified in the home yards. He was fine, and he passed the test to be able to work with. And one day we were showing properties that met his criteria, his needs, and then none of them suited him. So I thought, okay, no problem. So as we continued, we were going to get ready to wrap up for the day. And he said, you know, Veronica, there's this one property I want you to take me to. But I noticed there's not a sign on the yard, but there's a lockbox. So of course I said, no problem, if it's in the area, let's go drive to it. So we did. So we drove to it, and I noticed he pulled all the way through the driveway. It was a long, nice driveway. And I'm calling HAR, I'm calling our office to see, you know what, this property's not listed. I'm looking for it on my phone, not listed. And he said, you know, Veronica, come with me back here. I really want to show you this backyard. This is the type of backyard I'm looking for. And I will say, per the needs analysis, he was looking to build a pool, just a whole bunch of stuff back there. Well, I was always taught by my mother, you know what, that's God speaking to you, go by your gut. If something doesn't feel right, it's not worth your license or your life, right? So I said, you know what, no, you know, Mr. Jones, no thank you. I'm good, I'm okay. I said, no, let me keep trying to see what this property is all about. Still nothing, couldn't find anything on it. So at this time, I just got in my car and left. I didn't feel like I needed to explain to him or go back there and say, you know, I'm feeling a little uneasy with you. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my car. He didn't need to know that. At this point, I just got in my car and left. Well, he contacted my team leader and said, you know what, I don't know what's wrong with your KW agent, Veronica Barefield, but she just left me here at the property. And of course, Andy St. Jean at the time called me and said, you know, no, that's not like Veronica, but let me give her a call and see what's going on. I said, you know what, I felt really uncomfortable with them. Something was not right, you know, the whole 9 yards. Well, needless to say, you know, he ended up working with another agent. He ended up buying a property, but I had my peace of mind. I just could not work with that individual, and it was okay. So ladies, be extremely careful. I'm sure here we have a rule in our office where we always say, you know what, get me the folder in my office, the red folder at 407 Main Street. That means when you call my receptionist at the front desk, we're sending the police to 407 Main Street, no questions asked. I'd rather make sure you're safe than question like, okay, well, give me a call back. Let me make sure. No, we're sending it right over. Or one of our staff members is heading over there, you know, until the police get there or whatever. So that's our safety precaution. Always go with somebody, you know. I know on the news a couple months ago, they were talking about an agent, I think it was in Dallas, who, yes, unfortunately got murdered, but also there was another incident where a lady walked in with a baby and a husband, and they robbed the agent. So again, nowadays they bring a kid along. So the whole, don't take for granted what the individual looks like or who they're with. You know, in this business, we're constantly working with strangers, bottom line, and we have to not take it for granted, you know, question. There's plenty of times where I walk in the door and I'll stand at the door. I no longer practice, but when I did, I'll stand at the door and say, you know what, you go right ahead. You know, go ahead and look at the home. I'm going to stand right here, and you just let me know. I'll leave the door open, whatever the case may be. So again, just be very cautious when you are working with buyers. So it is okay to fire them, but I will say this, make sure that you are always, that you refer them to somebody else, because you've already worked with them, so don't let your time be wasted. It's okay to refer them to somebody else. If that other individual doesn't want them, then that's fine, and just wish them well and just say, I'm so sorry. You know, it doesn't seem like we're compatible here, and I want to make sure your real estate needs are met, but I just don't seem to be the agent for you. You can do that very respectfully and very nicely. Always provide exceptional service. That is something that I'm constantly telling my agents. When anytime I receive something from other clients, they said, you know, Veronica, that was one thing about you. You always provided exceptional service. I returned a call as soon as I could. I let them know, hey, I dropped the ball. Hey, you know what? I was wrong at that. You know, I made a bad choice on that. Be honest, because they'll respect you for that. If you don't know, you don't know. You know what? I don't know that answer to that, but let me get that information. I'll be back with you with that. Yes, we're considered the experts, but we're also human. So it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay to not have the right information, but you want to make sure that you provide that exceptional service. You know, walk the walk and talk the talk. It's big about our belief system. You know, they say, you know, we're individuals of integrity here, honest, that we're team players, that we communicate well. You want to make sure that you're constantly doing that with your clients. They will really appreciate. The rumor will get around to say, you know what, that is one awesome realtor. Peter, oh my goodness, he always constantly is going above and beyond, and he does a fabulous job. Well, then the word's going to get around, and they're going to want to work with you because of that. Because in this industry, as big as our industry is, you'll be surprised how really we're small. Because somebody can say one word about Janelle and, you know, across town, and I promise you it's going to get across. So you want to make sure your reputation is always respected. All right. So now I want to kind of share with you, I don't know if you guys do buyer consultations, but I did. And every time I met with a client, you want to make sure, I don't know if our mortgage person is still here, but you always want to make sure that they're pre-qualified. You don't want to take them out just because you got the call on property desk. The big thing is I always tell people, make sure are you working with an agent. That's extremely, because a lot of our buyers get amnesia very quickly. And they forget what they signed. They forget that the fact that, you know what, I'm calling every agent, every house I want to see, so I'm calling every agent on their sign. That's not the way it works. They don't realize we're commission-based. They don't realize that our time is very valuable. And I always tell people, it's like going to court. You always want to be represented by an attorney, right? So you want to make sure that you are definitely represented and you work solely with me. So I'm going to make sure that I negotiate on your behalf, that I handle your whole real estate transaction, and it's just you and I working. You also want to educate your buyer. They can go to an open house, a for sale by owner or a builder, every time I did my buyer's consultation, and once I was done, I always gave them 5 of my business cards. And the reason for that is because I'll say, Miss Yvonne, I'm so excited to be able to work with you. And so just so you'll know, anytime you walk into a builder or you run across an open house or for sale by owner or anybody for that matter, you want to let them know that you're represented. And here's a few of my cards, and feel free to give that to the builder. Feel free to give that to the for sale by owner. And by the way, I love referrals. So anybody that you know is looking to buy and sell or invest in real estate, I want to be your preferred realtor. And feel free to give them my information as well. You guys have a huge advantage. I'm no longer in practice, but now give away your mobile app, guys. You never have your card on you. Well, they won't. She may forget in her purse, and she's at a Texans game, and 4 people want to buy a house. Having her phone, my mobile app on her phone would have been huge, because she could have given it to the guys right there on the spot, and they would have had my mobile app. So that's a huge advantage. Take advantage of the technology that we offer. So once I meet with the individual, Yvonne, I talk to her on the phone. I ask her if she's working with an agent. I ask her, has she been pre-qualified? Because if she has not been pre-qualified, when she meets me in my office, I'm going to have the mortgage company available, ready to pre-qualify her, and I want to be able to step out of the room at that point, because I don't want to know her financial situation. And then, of course, once we get pre-qualified for $300,000, at that point, that's when I share with her my value proposition, why she should work with me. Then she signs my buyer's rep and my IABS. And during this process, we'll go over our needs analysis, and then at that point, then we're good to go. With me doing all of this, I rarely worked with a challenging buyer or ever had an issue with the buyer, because we had a crystal clear understanding what my expectations were and what their expectations were. I asked them, I make them feel involved. What are you expecting from me? Tell me, what is your perception of a realtor? Because we want to make sure that all of us have a clear understanding of how we're going to work together. And it always ended up very flawlessly because of the fact, like I said, it's kind of like a relationship. We all had a clear understanding from the very beginning. So once they meet with me, oh, it's okay. You're good.
Is it modeled after Sean's buyer console?
No, it's very different. Mine's very simple. Yeah. So I always gave my clients, when you met with me, this was a folder, whether you were a buyer or whether you were a seller, you had a folder. You always had my bio in that folder, you had my business card in that folder, and then depending on different items, I'm going to point out what was always in the folder after I left with them. And the reason for that, whether they signed with me or not, and the majority of the time they did sign with me, I always made sure they were able to take something with them. So this was a greeting, just letting them know I'm excited to be able to be their realtor. My bio. I was told, guys, just so you'll know, your bio should only be 2 paragraphs long. It should be short to the sweet. The only reason why my bio is longer than normal is because of the fact I use this bio for several reasons. But this bio was also in my packet because, again, I wanted them to make sure who they were working with. I let them know what my office looks like. If I was meeting them in a Starbucks, I was letting them know they're working for a professional office. So having a picture of your front office, which is absolutely beautiful, comes in handy because they let them know, you know what, I'm working with a professional. I let them know why I aligned my business and why I partner with Keller Williams is because their belief system is exactly like mine. And I mentioned, I don't go into detail, I just say, just so you'll know, I align my business with Keller Williams exactly the same, with win-win, integrity, customer service, commitment, communication, creativity, teamwork, trust, and success. They're impressed with that because they're like, interesting, so their company thinks like that, she thinks like that, I'm impressed. So we keep going. Why work with me? This is extremely important. I have more items listed here, but just so you'll know, if you were specializing in luxury, specializing in first-time home buyers, I worked with a lot of investors and relocation companies. This kind of tells you why you should work with you. If you're not a luxury agent, commercial agent, a farm and ranch agent, you want to be able to say my company is part of that affiliation. Because again, it just makes your resume look really good. The first part should be you, the bottom part should be your office. Eventually this will be all of you. This is something I'm part of all of this. But again, you make sure that you have a clear understanding of what you specialize in and what your office specializes in. I make mention here, by the way, Mrs. Buyer, our offices are from LA to New York, and we're also international. Let me tell you why I do this. I tell them because I want to make sure that if you have a sister that lives in Chicago or a brother that's in Baton Rouge and needs to buy or sell their home, you want them to call me Mrs. Buyer. And the reason for that, I'm going to put them with a great agent. Of course, we're going to get a referral check from it, but they don't need to know that. But you want to make sure to say, anytime you have a real estate needs, you want to call me first. Why? Because I have offices from New York to LA as well as international. So anytime, Mrs. Buyer, you're traveling internationally, as well as looking to even start a career in real estate, you know, in other cities or states or international, I want to be able to be your point of contact. Again, this builds your profit share and it also builds your referring base. I mentioned, by the way, I'm not going to brag about our office or myself, but we've been nominated with numerous awards, not only myself, but as well as my brokerage. You can get this, I'm sure this office has been recognized several times as well, but a lot of this is KWRI. We have a right to brag about that, so take advantage of that as well. Now, this is where I go into detail. This is where I get their information. This is where I ask them, why are they moving? Are they needing to, you know, to sell their home in order for them to move? Have they been pre-approved? This is where the needs analysis starts. And then this is the top 10 services areas. I want to make sure as far as their neighborhood, I want to make sure as far as I explain to them the whole process. This is where I go further into needs analysis in regards to 1 stories, how many bathrooms. I like to know what their recreational facility, what they like to do. And the reason for that is because if I'm looking for homes and I notice Peter is big in golf, and I'll say, you know, just so you'll know, Peter, I found a great, several homes that we're going to be in a 5-mile radius and that there's actually 4 golf courses. He's going to realize I paid attention in the needs analysis. He's going to see that him and his wife love playing golf. And he never specifically stated that he wanted to be near a golf course, but I paid attention to literally his recreational activities that he likes to do. I will let him know when buying a home, the do's and don'ts. You know, Mr. Peter, whatever you do, don't open up a new line of credit. Please don't buy a home. One day I was working for an a Rockets player, and I'll never forget, his wife bought everything and anything at Star Furniture, and we were closing that morning, and we were closing that afternoon, and she bought everything that morning. Unfortunately, we weren't able to close. So again, you would think with somebody with that amount of money still new, but I learned, don't ever assume. Let them know that, you know what, yes, my realtor did tell me that. Really, the mortgage company will tell them this, but it wouldn't hurt for you to reinstate, because you don't want anything to go wrong at closing. You know, Mr. Buyer, don't buy a car, don't co-sign for somebody. Do not be late on any of your bills. Don't get any overdraft on your account. Don't buy new furniture, and please, by all means, don't change employment at the time. People tend to do that, but you want to make sure that they're going to appreciate the fact that you make mention of that. I love this. This is my favorite slide right here, because if I'm working with the buyer, I'm highlighting where we're at. This also gets put into the folder that I was telling you about, because I want to make sure that they know every step of the way. If you're working with a high D, I probably, you know, I just like the visual, but if you're working with an SC, somebody with systems and compliance, they're going to love you for this, because they're going to be like, wow, this is a very nice step to step. Now, when I work with sellers, they get the exact same slide in their folder, and again, it lets them know, even though they might have bought 3 or 4 homes, this gives them a really good idea of where we're at in the process. And then in regards to pricing, I want to let them know when we go out and looking at homes, you know, for the first almost 3 to 4 weeks, that is the time that there's a lot of activity going on in the home. The reason why I like to educate the buyer on this level right here is because, you know, I'll say, yes, the house has actually been on the market for 7 days. According to the listing agent, they've got several showings going on. So I understand you want this property, but you want to come, it's $350,000, and you want to come in at $210,000. I'm sorry, sir, with all due respect, let me kind of explain. Let's put our, you know, our shoes as if we were the seller. So look, I just did some comps, and actually this house is actually listed very attractively. And I did some further research, and I talked to Shaddy Patty, the listing agent, and she was letting me know that they're going through a divorce, unfortunately. She hadn't, you know, so that's more leverage for us. But we'll keep that right here between you and I. So it's my suggestion that actually that we go ahead and come in very close, or actually at asking price. But sir, you're going to make the decision at the end of the day, but I just needed to advise you as your realtor. So what would you like to do? Okay. So I let them know that, you know, and then once it continues that, then of course we have a lot more negotiation room. But I like to tell them, you know, during this time right here, we want to be very, very aggressive and be making sure that we make a very suitable offer so the offer can be accepted. I always tell them, you know what, let me tell you what you control, Mr. Buyer, and what you don't control. You do control getting pre-approved, submitting an offer, making sure the home gets inspected, selecting a home warranty, getting homeowner's insurance, funding for the closing costs, getting utilities on and moving. What you don't control is the competition, property showing availability. The reason why I put that in there is because the buyers tend to get mad at us if that house cannot be available to show. What do you mean they can't see it at 2 o'clock? You've got to be kidding me. That's my only time. I understand that, but I called 3 times. That agent has yet to call me back. You know, and we don't want to dog this other agent and say, oh my goodness, she must not want to sell it. That's not our part of our business. It's just unfortunate. If I was that listing agent, I'd be on it, right? But unfortunately, some people just don't work that way. So you want to be able to prepare them. Buyers are, you know, if it's a buyer's or seller's market, we can't control that, or what the interest rates are. So again, it's all about preparation and expectation up front. When we make an offer, Mr. Buyer, just know they're going to accept it, they're going to reject it, they're going to counter offer, they're not going to do nothing with it. I'm just preparing you right now what's going to happen when we do submit an offer. So I'd like to share with them a little bit more about that. And we're going to go through inspections. I want to prepare you, Mr. Buyer, if this is your first time buying, they're going to find everything and anything wrong. They're going to go through a fine-tooth comb with that property on purpose because that inspector works for you. So I don't want you to freak out because your inspection report is going to be about this much, but we're probably going to only ask for the most important items. You can tell when you're an amateur agent, when I used to be in production, and they literally sent me the whole inspection report and said, we want all of this fixed. Don't do that, guys. I always tell my agents, look for the major stuff. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, foundation, termites, the big things. Something that's going to cost my buyer a lot of money once they get in the home if they have to fix it. So they understand that. From the doorknobs falling off, don't worry, we can get the handyman or your husband to fix that. Let's look at major items. So they like the fact that you prepare them, and just know, during this time, Mr. Buyer, I will not be able to come with you. The inspector and yourself will be present, because again, that's not use of your time. You need to be lead generating. You need to be out getting more business, because this deal's getting ready to close and you need something to funnel the next deal. So you've got to be constantly in preparation. I explained to them the home warranties. I normally give them 3 home warranties to choose from. You always give 3 of everything. I prepare them for closing, just to kind of prepare what's going to take place. I give them a before and after closing checklist. I want to make sure that they have everything that they need. Closing day. This is something right here that I've learned. I always ask the selling agent to fill out this information for me. I want to know where the key box is. Nowadays, there's like a big box with 1 through 20, right? It does, now our mailboxes are not in front of our yard no more. But which mailbox is mine? Where are the keys to it? Normally, of course, they have to go to the post office to get all that done, but it's so nice to know what we're working with. It's nice to know who the pool guy was. It's nice to know what days the HOA is. When do trash come? We just moved in. Am I going to get the trash ready on Thursday or Tuesday? So I want all the garage remote controls. I want the keys, alarm code. I want to know when the seller's information shows. Should my buyers have any need to contact them, they know how to reach them. Frequently asked questions. This is where I talk about going into a builder or working with a for sale by owner. And then I tell them at this point, let me tell you what's getting ready to happen next. We're going to definitely, now that I know what your needs are, we're going to definitely go look at properties, and then we're going to narrow them down. I always let my buyers know what the taxes are in that area. If there's any restrictions to the HOA, that's huge, especially out here. In spring, where we're at, we're big in regards to their HOAs are extremely strict. And let me tell you, I've had a lot of clients that can afford the house, but the taxes were so high 2 years later, we ended up having to sell it because they couldn't even afford the taxes. They can afford the mortgage, but not the taxes. So buyers are going to so appreciate the fact that you educated them on everything. That it's not about just making the dollar, the money will come. Provide an exceptional service, the money will come, because they so value and appreciate the fact that you literally covered all bases with them. And then at the end, let them make the decision. So don't give them a reason to come back to you and tell you why you didn't inform them. So Eric and Yvonne are gonna pass out a bonus package to you. And this is part of my business, stuff that I created. So when I got out of real estate, I sold my business to another team. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that I created that I'm sharing with all of you. Now, I let Ruth know yesterday, a lot of people always ask, Veronica, how do I get the templates to that? Unfortunately, I don't have those. When I sold my rights over, all I was able to keep the rights of me actually creating a lot of that stuff. But it's for you to have, and I'm going to go over what each thing means, okay? And can you give Miss Ruth and her iPad so they can see what I'm looking at? All right. So I'm going to, it's not in this order the way I would give it, but I want to be able to share with you what each item is. The first one is something that I would always, when I talk to the buyer over the phone, I would use this to pre-qualify them and ask them every question you could think of right here. So I had their information with me. Let's turn the page. This was my original. Remember that graph that I was telling you about? That's what I would use. I was big on branding, so you'll notice my branding was on every single thing on the very top. Turn the page over. This was really nice. This was in the packet that it talked about the home buyer's information. You know, my commitment to the buyer, the commitment from the buyer, the do's and don'ts. That's really important. A lot of people always told me, Veronica, that was one thing about you. You always educated us when we were the buyer. So sure enough, when they were wanting to sell, they also called me as well because they saw the same similar process just on the seller's side. Turn the page over. This is a map. This was also in their packet. And the purpose of this map is funny because people come to Houston, they're like, yes, I just want to move anywhere where there's a 5-bedroom, with the lake in the back and has to have a saltwater pool. Great, but let's narrow it down. Where exactly? No, anywhere in Houston. No, so okay, let's go look it up now, real quick. So tell me, with you moving here, or tell me, do you want to be close to your husband's office or do you want to be close to the children's school? And then once they figure that out, okay, great, let's get the zip code. And let's narrow it down there. And then now we can narrow it down per communities. So this map always came in handy. The next one is Murphy's Law. Everything can go wrong in closing will, whether you were a buyer or whether you were a seller. This is my law practice kicking in right here. I'm going to be very vulnerable with you. This is all of Veronica's mistakes that you're going to see, okay? So, day of closing, be very flexible. I used to have buyers get very antsy and upset. Oh my goodness, you said we were closing at 10 a.m. What do you mean now it's been moved to 2? Or what do you mean the sellers have decided not to sell? Calm them down. It's okay. Just say, I don't know what's going on right now, but don't worry, I have everything under control. Let me keep talking to the selling agent. Let me find out what's really going on, right? And just say, just bear with me for a moment. I don't know what's going on, but I need you to be extremely flexible. Because you'll see people at the title company with you, and if you set this all up, you'll be like, well, Mr. Jones, remember when we talked? Matter of fact, I have it right here. You signed right here that asked you to be flexible. Oh, you're right. Okay, great. So just give us another 30 minutes. We'll figure out what's going on. So that was really important. The second one talking about be careful about going back and forth. Let them know closing can take more than 2 hours. People think they can come and sign and they're out. That's not normally how it works. The other thing I want to prepare you for, if you don't know this by now, is I didn't like closing at the end of the month and I don't like to close after 4 p.m. Funding ends at 4 p.m. The bank down the street is open till 5. Funding ends at 4 p.m. So I always like to close in the morning or early afternoon. I don't like to close on Friday because if we don't fund, we can't get our keys until Monday. So now my buyers are waiting to move, etc., which is huge. So that's where my listen with scheduling the movers, explaining for the utility companies, and making sure that they need to be flexible. The other thing is the final walkthrough, making sure a lot of agents don't do the final walkthrough. You want to make sure that everything is in place that you agreed to. We ask for the refrigerator, the kitchen, the stainless steel refrigerator, and we walk in there and it's the black refrigerator that they just got from the garage to put in there. Because remember, we agreed to a refrigerator, but we weren't specific on the non-realty addendum. So be very specific. You'll be surprised, guys, how people don't bring a certified check. They bring literally their checkbook. And as much as we depend on the mortgage company to do their part, you always end up having to do just to double check. A great buyer's agent and a selling agent always does their due diligence. So I'm checking Peter's work and I'm going to check mine. And even though I'm only getting paid on one side of the deal, I'm going to make sure that I'm dotting every I, crossing every T, and calling them and saying, hey Peter, how are things going, man? Just making sure we're set for closing, right? Is there anything I can do to help out? Peter's gonna get tired of you calling because you're calling every 2 weeks because I'm also calling the mortgage guy, but I'm making sure we're gonna have a very successful closing, and I'm not letting my buyer see that I'm sweating right now. I'm just gonna make sure, is there anything that we need to do? The last thing, guys, is the HUD. I've saved a lot of clients money on the other side, not even so much my clients, but reading that HUD. Don't just look at your buyers, look at your seller side as well, because you want to make sure that title companies make mistakes, and you'll be it's interesting to see that. Make sure they bring their driver's license and that it's not expired. I've had a client that the day of closing, because it got moved over 2 days later, expired on that day. So I always tell my clients a month prior, make sure your license is not expired. I've saved probably 12 closings because of that. A month prior, they're like, oh my God, Veronica, my birthday's next month and it does expire. You know what, I'm gonna go take care of that right now. So please don't let that ever be an issue. All right, turn the page over. This is my survey. I always gave my survey closing, and this is the way I would do it, guys. I'd say, Ruth, it was such a pleasure working with you. I'm gonna go check on funding. Do you need water or anything? Are you good? Okay, well, great. With part of my services that definitely excels our expectations and makes us just a better team, can you fill this out for me, please? And I'm gonna go check on closing, and I'll be right back. So I'll go and really just go to the bathroom, check my hair, making sure everybody was good, because the title company had it under control, really. But I'm giving her a chance to fill that out. So now I'm done, Ruth. Thank you so much. Congratulations. We've closed on your home, and you get this. Do not look at it. Put it in your, your portfolio and say, all right, Ruth, we're ready to go. And then you're good. And then get in the car and see what they said. So all of my years I practiced, I've had 2 bad surveys. Number 1 is I drove too fast. I'm like, it was yellow. Why didn't you catch up with me, right? I was like, I got 6 houses to show, and I've got 2 more clients waiting on me, buddy. Come on, we got to go. No. So I learned to slow down. And they said, Veronica, we loved you. Would you just drive too fast? And then the other one was, you talk too fast. Slow down. I'm just very passionate at what I do, so I do talk fast. And I talk loud when I really get excited. So they said, sometimes you feel like you were yelling at us. Oh, I didn't mean to, but I'm just really excited. So yeah, so just learn. But you'll be amazed what they write, and just say, but they really pay attention to see, if you're going to see what they wrote. Or sometimes when you put in there, I've had people say, you're not going to read? Oh, I will. I'm too excited. Let's get to your house so we can take a picture with the sold sign. And I'll tell them, Ruth, please be very honest when you fill this out. It's just going to make me better. And by the way, I really work well with when you critique me, because you're going to just make me a better realtor. So you want them to be very honest. Now, what I do with this is I put it on my website. She gets on the bottom. It doesn't say it anymore, but it used to say, do I get permission to post this? Nowadays, HAR has that rating 5. We didn't have that before. So you see, so things like that, why not utilize this to tell people, or people say, I like references. Well, great, here's my book of my surveys of customers that I worked with, okay? The other thing is the checklist before and after closing. This is where I learned, finding out where the mailboxes are, garage door openers, the pest control company, etc. And then after closing, we've had a lot of people where the deed wasn't, changed correctly. You want to make sure, just because we're closed, you sign documents does not mean the deed has been transferred over correctly. So you want to make sure that everything has been done. Cancel your previous insurance, making sure your current insurance is covering the right thing. The very last thing I want to share with you is the time is of the essence. This is a checklist I used for all of my clients. Not only was this in every folder of my clients that I had in my office with my team working on it, but it was on my clipboard in my car. Because if I needed to call the mortgage company, if I needed to call the other listing agent, I knew I had all my information right here. So every time I walked in the office, I brought my clipboard, and my assistant was always updating it just to make sure where we were at. Everybody on my team knew what was going on with the transaction, and the reason for that was because of the sheet right here. Because it lets you know that did we deliver the title policy? I mean, were all utilities on? Were repairs done? Have we scheduled the walkthrough, etc.? So everything that I might have missed in other transactions, it's literally right here. The purpose of the legal description, I had an agent, a colleague of mine, when we first got started, 6 months in the business, the client bought the house and the lot next to it. Well, she was enjoying her new house with her husband, and next thing you know, you see a for sale sign go up next door. And she's like, wait a minute, but I own that lot. And they're like, no, you did not. Well, the other agent was so new that on the legal description, she didn't put the other lot. So the only thing they really purchased was the house and not the lot. And that lot next door, you know, got into foreclosure due to taxes being owed on it. So again, being a rookie, not knowing, cross your T's and dot your I's, because you want to make sure that your legal description, and check with the title company and making sure that everything's okay. All right, so that's your bonus package. Any other questions that you can think that you have for me? Any questions? Yes, please.
So you said you didn't have those other things, the slides, you didn't have those electronically to share, like the maps and whatnot?
These, yes, I can definitely share this with you, but the girl who did this, it's not editable, just so you'll know. My transaction coordinator did this for me. She could do it for you as well. She does my branding, etc. She can do your listing presentation or your buyer's presentation for a small fee, and I think it's like $100, $125, something like that. But yes, but none of this is editable, unfortunately. But I'll be happy to share it, and I can send this to Ruth. It's just not editable. So she, yeah. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not technology inclined. But very good point. But yes, I'll be happy to share that. I'll give you her information. Yeah, you're welcome. All right. Thank y'all so much for letting me be here. I appreciate it.
All right, a couple of announcements.